Hello everyone, my name is Hal and today I have something special for you. A thievery tutorial for all you scoundrels out there. I have tried doing this before but I didn't know enough at the time, and now that I've picked up a few tricks, I'm willing to share them with you. Of course, some of the things I've said previously will be mentioned again in this video because the previous one is now unlisted. Before we talk about details, let me clarify something. The character you play, Henry, is a simple blacksmith's son with no skills whatsoever. Basically, he sucks at everything he does until he learns how to properly do it, be it fighting, archery, or the skill people complained about the most, lockpicking. Some people think it's too hard, and those who play on consoles are right, but on PC it gets easier once you get used to it. To me, lockpicking is a rather challenging, high-risk, high-reward activity. But since this is Thief Masterclass, I'll teach you everything about thievery, not just lockpicking. But not before we start with the basics. I will link the exact time where I talk about lockpicking in the description, so you can skip there if your time is too precious to give me the full 15 minutes of watch time. Anyway, I've betrayed everything I stood for by making such a long intro, so without further ado, let us begin. First of all, you cannot really get started in the dishonorable art of thieving without completing the game introduction. Most of you know this already, but it has to be mentioned. Basically, the game doesn't really begin until you get beaten to an inch of your life by some asshole who then steals your sword. After you rise from your deathbed, you'll get the sudden realization you're now indebted to Miller Peshek. You can be honorable and get money through knightly deeds and then pay the miller back, or you can throw honor in the garbage can where it belongs and do the miller a favor. Steal a ring from someone. After you successfully complete this request, Miller Peshek and his friends will teach you how to steal, and they'll start buying stolen items from you. Now let's have a word about trading. You steal to make a profit, but you can maximize this profit by bartering. So, once you open the trading screen, you'll see some of the trader's stats in there, including his wealth and your reputation with him. Now, if you sell the trader items and he has to pay you more than he can afford, he won't because he has no money. So remove some of your items from there and sell them later. Or you can be a good fella, go to the barter screen, and leave the price as it is even if he owes you more. The more he owes you, the higher your standing will get, the better prices you'll get from him in the future. You can barter for everything, and I recommend you always do because it increases your speech skill. The negotiation screen works both for buying or selling. Basically, when you take the bar down, you'll profit, and when you take the bar up, you cut the trader some slack and get some standing with him, which can work better for you in the long run. After I have about 500 groschen, I stop worrying about squeezing the trader for all he's got. For example, if all I'm selling is some poached rabbit meat for a total of 100 coins, I'll only take 90 coins and the trader will like me more. When you're selling or buying more expensive things, however, choose profit. Those 10 coins I didn't earn from the poached meat made me 60 coins on the expensive pair of shoes I just sold. In the long run, the money you earn from bartering will add up. One more thing about bartering. If a trader sells you stuff for 1000 coins and you don't want to pay that much, in order to make him lower his price, go lower than normal. Don't be out of your mind and demand the cheapest price because that's a very good way to make the merchant lose his patience and you'll lose standing. Follow an unreasonable request with a reasonable one and you'll have a better chance of saving some coin. A penny saved is a penny earned, but greed will cost you more in the long run. Also, in case the millers can no longer afford your stolen items, you can store them somewhere and eventually these items will lose their heat. And by heat I mean, of course, their stolen status. After they do that, you'll be able to sell them to any merchant. And if you steal weapons, repair them at the nearest grindstone to increase the profit you'll earn by selling them. Now that we learned where to sell our pilfer goods, how about we earn us some actual loot? We can get some by just killing bandits or by looting corpses found on the road when fast traveling. Sometimes you'll even find noblemen or traders who travel all alone and they can be prime targets for a robbery. You can try choking them if there's no witnesses around, and if you succeed they'll be rendered unconscious and you're free to take all their stuff. But your choking attempt may fail and your victim will either fight back or run to the guard, in which case you might be tempted to murder him. While you can do it and avoid the consequences of being caught committing a crime, murder can have some serious implications. And since we're thieves, not murderers, it's bad for business. But even perfectly choking someone is not free of consequence if your victim happens to see your face beforehand. I strongly advise you to avoid harming civilians and only pick their pockets, because there's plenty of scum around that you can kill, rob, and keep a clear conscience.
Get up! You'll pay the price for every Christian you slaughtered here.
There's one more thing we need to consider before we move on to sneaky deeds, and that is equipment. Ditch the heavy armor and try to wear dark clothes that don't weigh too much. Go for clothes that lower these two key stats, visibility and noise. There's also a conspicuousness stat, but this one is for keeping you unnoticed in crowds. If you practice your trade at night, you won't need that one. But here's the thing I did notice when I was dressed shadily. The city guard stopped me and demanded to search me for stolen goods. Luckily, I didn't do nothing and all my stolen goods were in the horse's saddlebags, and as such I didn't lose anything. Also, when your sneak skill is low, move slowly by using caps lock. You can increase your sneaking skill by skulking around enemies or by picking pockets or doing lockpicking. One other piece of equipment is a horse that can carry a lot. I personally picked Trojan from the Neuhof stables before something really bad happened there. With the prep work out of the way, let us finally talk about pickpocketing. Now, you can ask Miller Peshek to show you the way of the sneak thief and you'll get a rough idea, but for me personally, I haven't figured out how to properly pick a pocket until I saw some other Henry do it. Before we expand on the subject, only practice this on targets that stay still, preferably without them or anyone else catching a glimpse of what you're doing. If your victim suddenly turns or starts walking away, you're screwed. Drunks and sleeping folk are the easiest to practice this skill on. Basically, pickpocketing has 3 stages. The first one is the groping stage, where you gently caress your victim's purse to get a feel for the valuables inside. When you begin the groping phase, you'll have to pass by this threshold marked by the golden line, because if you don't, you'll get caught in the act. As you do this, you'll see the circle in the center change color. If it goes green, that's the perfect opportunity to go into your victim's pockets to take a peek. But for some people, the circle will never turn green, and that indicates that they're vigilant. Be very quick with these. Spend too much time rummaging through the pockets of a merchant or a guard and you will get caught. Don't spend more than 3 seconds groping someone whose circle stays red. You can go for about 6 to 8 seconds doing this to most people, and the more time you spend in this groping stage, the more time you have for step 2. The second stage is called the snooping, where you're actually looking inside your victim's purse. When you're snooping, you'll see certain icons. A door, which represents that your hand is out of the target's pocket, and some question marks that indicate items you don't yet see. To see them, your hand has to navigate to them and reveal the item by pressing E. If it's not an item you want to steal, let it be and look for another one, but quickly navigate to the exit before the timer runs out. If, however, the item is revealed to be a bag of coins or a key, you should steal it. Enter Phase 3, Pilfering. After the item is revealed, you have to press E again to grab it, and then quickly navigate to the exit and press E once more to extract the item. If your hand is still in your target's pocket when the timer runs out, I hope you're ready to face the consequences. Anyway, don't get too greedy and pick a target's pocket too many times. Once is enough, twice is risky, 3 and above, the chance of getting caught increases exponentially. And if you do this, always expect to get caught, because it can happen for no reason at any stage during pickpocketing. So don't go shopping if you haven't saved your game for a while. If you happen to accidentally find a key when you trip and grab a person's pocket to stop your fall, stalk them to see where they live, wait for them to be either gone or sleeping, and then mistakenly wander into their home. If the key you took is not from a door but from a trunk, you'll need to pick the lock on that door. Now this is what you're here for. But in order to pick a lock, you'll need lockpicks, which you can purchase from the miller or from various other traders. Early on they're expensive, but well worth the price. It should go without saying, but don't let anyone see you do this. At first your skill in this fine art is low, and when you see that this lock is too difficult, don't even try picking it. It will only result in a broken pick and you crying. Until you learn your way around the lock, pick only the easiest ones and increase your skill. Before you even attempt lockpicking or anything risky, drink up a savior schnapps or go to bed to save your game, and then get to it. The principle of lockpicking is simple. Move your pick around the lock to search for the tumbler. The closer you move to it, the bigger the orb that represents your lockpick grows. When the orb is golden, you are near the sweet spot, and when it cannot grow any larger, you've finally found it. Once you find the sweet spot, turn the lock and keep your pick steady on the tumbler. If you encounter difficulties, don't force the lock. Let it revert and try again. Now this is what all the lockpicking tutorials will teach you. But I've found a trick that's guaranteed to open any lock that's not above my skill level. Here it is. Every time you begin lockpicking, the pick's position on the lock will change, and to put it simpler, you will perceive that as the sweet spot changing. Let me repeat that. Every time you begin the lockpicking sequence, the sweet spot will change from your perspective. And what I've found is that if the sweet spot is closer to the center of the lock, you'll have an easier time opening it, at least if you use mouse and keyboard. I haven't touched a controller in my life, but the principle should be the same. Now let me repeat this for the third time to make it clear as daylight. To guarantee you open a lock, start and restart the lockpicking sequence again and again until the sweet spot appears to be near the center of the lock. This ensures a smaller area in which you need to maintain your cursor, and at least for me, it works 100% of the time on locks that aren't too difficult. Sure, it can take you quite some time to find a perfect position, but it's better to waste that time instead of breaking the lockpick and getting yourself caught. Once you apply this knowledge, you'll think to yourself, damn, this guy's a genius, I'm going to subscribe to him immediately. It's that good. Anyway, I got a bit carried away and I'm afraid the interesting part of the video has passed. But I will also shortly discuss the repercussions of getting caught. To put it simply, when you get caught committing a crime, you'll quickly get reported to the local guard. Once you're wanted in a town, this icon appears next to the city's name in the map and your reputation screen. The good news is, if you stay gone long enough, the city guard will forget your crimes and leave you alone if the crime isn't too severe. But if you do the stupid mistake of letting the guard get close to you, or worse, fast travel through the city, that is a very good way to get yourself apprehended. If the guard does stop you, it's best to surrender and pay a fine. Theft is the least severe of crimes, assault is worse, murder is the absolute worst. I usually just pay the fine, but if you're a bad thief and you have no coin to show for it, it's the jailhouse for you. Your punishment can range from a day to several, and while you're rotting in prison, certain quests may fail because the people don't want to wait for you. Also, because of the malnourishment, your athletic performance will be impacted for a few days. But you also have the option of running away from the guard if you have a horse. Park your horse not too far from the city gates and make sure you have a little distance from the catchpole before you mount up. If the guard is in your face, your horse will get scared and throw you off. Anyway, you can get on your horse, run away, and if the crime isn't too severe, you can wait for them to forgive your crimes. But the bad news is, they'll never forget. Even if the guard isn't chasing you anymore, the citizens of the city you've offended will not be very happy. If your reputation gets too low, they'll even refuse talking to you altogether and you'll be unable to conduct your business there. At some point, I even got attacked by one of my former robbery victims and the city guard joined in and nearly killed me. But I eventually lured the offender out of the city and convinced him to leave me be. It's all water under the bridge now. Anyway, I think I've explained everything there was to discuss about the crime and punishment system. To give you a short recap, wear the right clothes, have lockpicks on hand, have a horse prepared, and avoid getting caught. Do this and soon enough you can call yourself a master thief. But until then, remember, you still have much to learn. Take reading lessons and keep an eye out for skill books that teach you the craft. Visiting the scribe in Ujits is one of the first things you should do as soon as you can. But yeah, this was it guys. I hope this was educational and entertaining, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, goodbye.